Have you ever wondered why a pill that worked perfectly fine 3 years ago suddenly needs a higher dose just to do the same job? I'm 83 now, and I cycled through one prescription after another for 20 years, asking myself exactly that. In a systematic review pooling multiple clinical trials, men taking one specific combination showed real, measurable improvement in erectile function that never once came up in 20 years of prescriptions. I want to walk you through those 20 years honestly. It starts with a pill that works. Then, a few years later, it works less well. You try a higher dose. The cycle repeats, and you start to feel like the problem is you, not the medication. That feeling is corrosive, and I carried it for 2 decades before anyone explained why the pills kept losing ground. That review is what finally gave me the answer. In a minute, I'll tell you exactly what the combination was. Here's what nobody told me. Those pills work on a nerve signal pathway, essentially amplifying a response that's already trying to happen. They were never designed to fix circulation directly. An erection depends on 3 systems working together: the hormonal piece, the nervous system signal, and blood flow, governed by a molecule called nitric oxide that tells your arteries to relax and let blood in. If your circulation has weakened over the years, the pill has less and less raw material to amplify. 20 years of prescriptions, and not one doctor ever explained that the actual building block for nitric oxide is something my body needed directly, not something a nerve signal pill could supply on its own. Learning that single fact retroactively explained 2 decades of confusion in a matter of minutes. I wasn't failing to respond to the medication. The medication was doing exactly what it was designed to do. It just had less and less to actually amplify year after year. And nobody ever thought to mention that the amplifier itself wasn't the whole story. These days, I have more energy and consistency than I've had in over a decade. I've stopped dreading evenings, stopped that quiet mental math I used to do before any intimate moment, wondering which version of my own body would show up. I'm not telling you that to brag. I'm telling you because 20 years of pills never gave me that particular kind of peace, and this did. Here's the part that reframed it all for me. The blood vessels involved here are some of the smallest in your entire circulatory system, smaller than the ones feeding your heart. Circulation problems tend to show up here first, before anywhere else in the body. Researchers who study this treat it as a meaningful early signal, worth bringing straight to your doctor instead of quietly enduring it alone for 20 years the way I did. For 3 years, I slept 3 feet away from my wife, and it felt like 300 miles. She'd fall asleep first. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, wide awake, feeling like a roommate in my own marriage. I thought something was wrong with me. It wasn't weakness, and it wasn't just age. Here's what no one ever sits a man down to explain. This isn't about willpower. It's about specific systems in your body quietly losing steam year after year, while nobody tells you it's even happening. The pills my doctor handed me gave me headaches, made my chest feel tight, and honestly, they made me feel like I needed a pill just to feel like a man. I wasn't willing to live like that. There's a gentler way to bring those systems back, without any of that. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore. I'll show you exactly what changed it in this video, and if you want the simple support I personally use, there's a free presentation linked in the description below. So here's the mix that finally changed things, after 20 years of everything else. An amino acid called L-arginine combined with an antioxidant extract called pycnogenol taken from pine bark. There's a meta-analysis pooling several controlled studies and a specific double-blind trial in Japanese men with mild to moderate erectile difficulty that found real improvement in firmness and satisfaction after roughly 8 weeks of consistent use, which is close to exactly how long it took me to notice a real, lasting difference. The mechanism is direct. Arginine is the raw material your body converts into nitric oxide, the exact molecule those 20 years of pills were trying to amplify without ever addressing the supply. Pycnogenol appears to help that conversion happen more efficiently, and together, researchers measured a stronger effect than either ingredient produced alone. I took it once a day, same time, alongside breakfast, so it became automatic within a couple of weeks rather than one more thing I had to remember. I added a few other pieces. Vegetables rich in dietary nitrate, beets, spinach, dark leafy greens most nights, feeding the same nitric oxide pathway the arginine was already supporting, just from a different direction. A short walk most mornings in daylight, which does its own quiet work on the lining of your blood vessels over time. Better sleep, since a fair amount of the hormonal piece of this actually happens overnight, not during the day. Less alcohol, since it works against nearly everything else on this list if it's overdone. I tracked it loosely in a small notebook for the first 2 months, mostly out of old habit from all those years of tracking prescriptions, and it was strange to watch the entries slowly turn more positive. That notebook habit, oddly enough, was one of the few useful things those 20 years of prescriptions left me with. A willingness to actually pay attention and record what was happening, instead of just vaguely hoping things would improve on their own without any real evidence either way. My wife and I hosted a dinner party last month, and I was the last one still up, talking, cleaning the kitchen, wide awake, while our guests were clearly ready to head home. She joked that I'd become the energetic one in the house. I think about a man named Raymond who wrote in, 79, 22 years on various prescriptions himself, who told me the relief of understanding why the pills kept failing mattered almost as much as anything he actually took afterward. Understanding, he said, took away 2 decades of quietly blaming himself. Raymond told me he'd actually apologized to his own doctor at one point, years earlier, for not responding well enough to a dosage increase, as though the failure had been some personal shortcoming rather than ordinary physiology. He said learning the real mechanism made him wish he could go back and take that apology back. He told me the strangest part of those 20 years wasn't any single disappointment, it was how normal the whole cycle had started to feel. A new prescription, cautious optimism, a slow fade, and quiet acceptance, repeated so many times it stopped registering as something worth questioning at all. He said it took someone finally naming the actual mechanism before he even thought to ask why the cycle kept repeating in the first place. If you're on medication for blood pressure or your heart, please hear this clearly. Nothing here replaces your prescription, and you should never stop or change a medication on your own. Mention any new supplement to your doctor first, every single time, no matter how small it seems. What I want you to walk away with is this. A pill that amplifies a signal is only as good as the circulation underneath it. Support that circulation directly, and everything built on top of it works better too. I wish someone had told me that 20 years ago, in plain language, at the very first appointment where the topic ever came up. It would have saved me 2 decades of quiet self-blame and a small fortune spent chasing higher doses of the same solution instead of addressing the foundation underneath it. I don't say that to blame any single doctor along the way. Each one did what the appointment structure allowed, which was manage the symptom in front of them rather than step back and ask what was feeding it. That gap isn't anyone's fault specifically, but it cost me 2 decades I can't get back. And that's exactly why I keep making these videos, hoping fewer men have to spend 20 years finding their own way to the same answer. Your erections don't disappear just because you got older. They fade when the systems behind them, blood flow, nitric oxide, hormones, energy, and recovery, slowly stop getting the support they need. Ignore that long enough, and it becomes harder to reverse. That's why I take this concentrated formula every morning. Not one ingredient trying to fix everything, but several working together to support circulation, energy, and drive from the inside out. It's a natural, doctor-backed protocol designed to support pathways your body already knows how to use. No prescription, nothing artificial. Stronger, present, confident again. And unlike the pills I tried, I didn't feel disconnected from my own body. No headaches, just steady, gradual change. My wife noticed before I even said a word. The presentation is linked right below this video. It won't replace your doctor or a healthy lifestyle. It's simply there to support your body. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore, and it's not too late for you. I think about the man I was, cycling through prescriptions for 2 decades, quietly blaming himself each time one stopped working the way it used to. And I think about the man I am now, who finally understands what his body actually needed all along. That's not vanity, that's dignity, being the man who understands his own body instead of quietly apologizing to it. If you've spent years chasing the next prescription, hoping it would finally be the one, tell me about it in the comments below. And if this kind of explanation is useful to you, go ahead and subscribe. There's more of this ahead every single week, and I read every comment myself.